brand new pack of six, a fresh one hanging from the lips, a beer between the legs.
Howdy, Ags. AP, Corey from the Tailgate. We'll talk Aggie football every day. Brought to you by Frida Custom Homes, building Aggie dreams. Folks, don't forget to email us, send us some commentary, questions, comments. You want to curse us out, agstailgate@gmail.com. We'll read it and maybe we'll respond. Today's show, we're going to talk about college football teams that have a chance to have a big turnaround in 2022. And also which teams may be facing a big drop-off. Where does A&M fall into those two categories? We'll also go through our introducing a new segment on the show, Player Profile. Today's Player Profile will be Anaya Smith. So we'll go through that process. Before that, a few news and notes. Big day for Aggie sports yesterday, man. Huge wins. Let's start with the baseball win. Played TU in Austin Tuesday, 12-9, baby. Aggies win it on the road. Corey, what do you think, man?
I think it's a typical Aggie game, just what we're talking about. 12-9 score. You know, there's not a lot of pitching there. But one of the Aggies hit for the cycle. I'm not sure who it was. I heard that one of them hit for the cycle.
First baseman Jack Moss going 5 for 5 with 5 ribbies.
Nice, congratulations. But yeah, it's big. Anytime you beat the Longhorns or anything, like I said, you know, this is supposed to be the one sport the Longhorns are supposedly good in, and we beat them in that. So there you go.
Ranked number one. They've been ranked number 1 in the country this year. So.
Well, yeah, they also lost to Texas State. So I mean, what the hell? You know what I'm saying?
Good point. Yeah, they've been struggling with their pitching just like the Aggies have. Left fielder Dylan Rock, also big game, 3 for 5 with 5 RBIs as well. Excellent performance by the lineup, you know, and getting the 12 runs, man. That's a heck of a night. And then hopefully you can get better pitching performances as the year goes on. So, okay, right there. Basketball, my friend. Basketball, people sort of had dying at midseason, right? Like folks had given up on Buzz Williams. They had just stopped going to the games, basically. They beat the mess out of Washington State on Tuesday night in Madison Square Garden to make the NIT finals, man. How about that?
Leo, they've been beating the mess out of people for a while now. I mean, if you go back and look at the games, I mean, they were dominating a lot of these games. Even who was it, Auburn, that came back on them after they were up by 20 or something like that. I mean, they've been dominating these games, and it's been defense leading the offense. The offense has been it hasn't been pretty when they've been on offense, but they score their points. Obuseki's looked good last night. I mean, he's athletic. They're moving the ball. Coleman, you know, showed up in the second half.
Yeah, foul trouble in the first half, but man, he was frustrated as hell. Did you see that? He was pounding the seats and all that stuff. He was frustrated, but man, he came out in the second half, had a big second half.
And they and Buzz is going deep. He's going 11, 12, you know, deep on the bench, and you know, we got some depth there. That's good. That should bode well for next season, you know.
And I'll say this, you know, look, Q still the absolute leader of this team, right? He dominates the ball a lot of times, and when they need something to happen, he's in the middle of it, man. And I am so impressed with what he does for this team. It's ridiculous how impressed I am with that guy, especially from where he's, you know, he didn't start the season that way, man. He's been doing that since about midseason. He historically in prior years, he's also gotten better as the season going along, but this year has just been, to me, another level. I wonder whether he's got an opportunity to go get drafted after something like this and get a chance, or at least get an invite to go play, you know, go try out somewhere in the NBA after this year. But not only Q, right? I mean, we talked about Coleman. You said Radford Boots, who's just a constant team guy, right? I mean, he does everything for this team, even when he doesn't score. He's rebounding, he's defending, he's bringing the ball up, he's, you know, all those things. But then, since midseason, the guys that I'm really impressed with that have now taken on a bigger role, Taylor, right? Diarra, Obaseki. And, dude, that guy looked great yesterday.
Yeah,
he's athletic. He's extremely, extremely athletic.
He's out of control sometimes, but that's expected. He's
a little bit. And his athleticism bailed him out a couple of times yesterday when he made a bucket sort of out of control. The announcers were going crazy. Oh, man, look at the hang time, but
Diarra, he shows up. He's been doing pretty well too. Wade Taylor, like you said. The one thing the Aggies did do yesterday that they've gotten away from shooting the 3 ball so much. It's I think they learned their lesson when that 8-game losing streak. You got in their head they were one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the nation to start the season. They started to rely on that. Now you see them going in the paint, using their athletic ability and drawing defenders, and then kicking to the wide open 3 they'll take and hit. But they're using Coleman more, and Boots is getting inside. Obaseki showing how athletic he is. And Q, that's one thing Q is. Q's a slasher. He's not a jump shooter. He's a slasher, and that's what we got a bunch of. We have a bunch of slashers on this team.
So. Fully agree. Even a guy like, look, Hefner, man. Hefner. And, boy, the announcers always get crazy because Hefner, he sits out there on the 3-point line, whatever, and then all of a sudden he gets a pass, and they're running out at him, and they jump, and he little shot fake, and he'll take it right to the hole and just wham, and the announcers will go crazy. Oh, I didn't expect that. The guy's athletic. Hefner's a good athlete, man, and he can get to the hole too, man. To me, that's been one of the best transformations I've ever seen in the team from the beginning of the season, middle of the season to the end of the season. And I give full credit to Buzz because at the end of the day, they're so much fun to watch right now because of the energy that they play with, right?
Yeah, and I think it's going to lead over to next year, I hope. I mean, they got a tough game. Xavier's pretty good.
Xavier's pretty good. 8-11 in the Big East, but the Big East is tough, right? This Big East is real tough. The one thing I'd say is they also lost one of their better players not too long ago, right? So,
he's their best player. Scruggs is their best player.
His best player. There you go, best player. So, that's something that plays in our favor for sure. I'll also say this: they've got a couple of guys that shoot the tray well, but they don't have a ton of guys that shoot the tray well, which probably plays to our strength to somewhat, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean. And plus, playing in the Garden, I mean, I think you noticed it with Washington State. They weren't draining the threes. Of course, the Aggie defense was good.
Yeah.
But playing in that big court, it's a big difference, man. I mean, people understand that. It's your depth perception gets thrown off. And
of course.
It makes a difference.
They also do have a 7-footer.
Yeah.
So how we deal with that size, of course, we've done it all year, right? They got another big guy, a 6'9" guy that's in there as well. But they're a short rotation, right? They go about 6 deep, and that's where they stay, right? They're
7-footer.
They lost Scruggs.
They're 7-footer. Nunge. He came from Iowa. He's a transfer from Iowa. He backed up that big guy for Iowa that was so good last year that dominated. And I was sitting there watching him play this year, like, man, I recognize this guy. And I watched him play at Iowa. He's pretty good. I mean, this kid, he can step out and shoot threes.
He can shoot it. Yeah.
He's got touch. He'll probably be the best player on the floor tomorrow night. I'm talking like with NBA stock. That's what he's like the most NBA.
He's their leading scorer now. He's their leading scorer.
Yeah, I can see he's probably going to be there. I don't see anybody else on the court. I don't see any Aggies going to the NBA out of this group. I don't know who. I mean, Q might play overseas. I don't think his game translates to the NBA very well. I don't think he has a jump shot for it.
So you absolutely, and I'd like to see somebody give Q a chance because all of his components are a good mix, man. He's got a lot of good qualities as a basketball player, and I'll tell you, man, I love his heart and his leadership, and I think that's huge.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Game, the final on Thursday night at 6 p.m., I think.
Yeah, tomorrow,
6 p.m. at Madison Square Garden. That should be a fun game, man. I'm looking forward to it. All right, so let's roll into some football. Maroon and white game, April the 9th. We've said that a couple of times. Some news and notes just from spring practice. Jimbo came on, had his presser yesterday. Nothing really to say there. Everybody
What
got
about,
reps.
hey, 1 second. What about the news of the day? You haven't said anything about Baylor Cup yet?
We're about to go there.
All right. I'm just making sure.
You want?
Go ahead.
Hey, you want to share it? Tell us all.
Man,
Tell us all.
I just text you today. Breaking news: Baylor Cup enters transfer portal, and your response was, "I called that." Is what you said. I think is what you texted me back. I called that.
I'm pretty sure I've said it on this show on multiple occasions. That
Yeah, no, it doesn't surprise anybody. We were talking about it. I think after maybe his freshman or sophomore season about him transferring out just because he couldn't stay healthy. It's sad, and the Texas Ags guys have been talking about him like, hey, he looks great on the field, man. He's big, he looks healthy. He's on, and then you get news that he's transferring out. So all that tells me is that the incoming players are that much better than he is already. He sees his name sliding on the depth chart already.
It tells me something else. It tells me that Texas Ags knows absolutely nothing about what they see on a fucking football field, right? Those guys sit out there and all they do is like listen to the whispers and whatever. Oh, they see the size and he's a 5-star recruit. Oh man, they've been praising that kid since the day he stepped on campus. They've been praising that kid before he stepped on campus. The fact of the matter is he played 2A football in high school, right?
What is that? Is that like 6-man?
Basically. And don't get me wrong, he's big, he's athletic, but he's not like quick twitch, right? He doesn't have that. He doesn't have that. And even this past year, whenever he was healthy, he couldn't get on the field. And I'll tell you, I have a feeling, and I've heard the whispers. I don't think he's got that work ethic, that love of the game that Jimbo wants from his guys, right? And so I think that's the reason he couldn't get on the field last year, because he doesn't work hard enough for Jimbo.
Why'd they recruit him? They should have found that out when they recruited him.
Well, sometimes you don't get that from.
No, they should have. They should have got that. 5-star recruit, you don't get that.
So he's out. Demas is entering the transfer portal. No surprise there. We knew he was not going to be back on the program. The quarterbacks all competed on Saturday in the scrimmage. They all got some reps with the ones. I'm going to tell you this once again, just reading what Jimbo's words are and not listening to Jimbo's words, not necessarily what he's saying, but how he's saying it. Haynes King is his guy. Every time he talks, I'm more and more convinced that that's the case. After his interview yesterday, his press conference yesterday, I believe it again. He's sort of like on Max Johnson. He loves Connor Wigman, but he's not ready yet. This is Haynes King's team, and I don't think anybody's going to take it from him next year.
Huh. Okay. Anybody next year you don't think going to take it from him?
Not this year, no.
Okay.
Except an injury, of course.
Okay.
All right, so new segment, current player spotlight. We talked about it earlier. Anaya Smith today, 5'10", 190 pounds. He's going to be a senior, 3-star recruit out of high school, played over at Dulles High School in Fort Bend ISD, part of my old stomping grounds when I coached over at Willow Ridge. This kid, I'm telling you, and I've said it a million times, you've heard me say it, I love this kid. I love this kid. I love what he does on the football field. I love what he does in leadership. I love how he carries himself. All of it, man. If I had to choose one player off of this team to take with me to my next team, it would be Anaya Smith. Corey, what do you think?
No, you've always have been a big Anaya Smith fan, and I have too. I mean, I'm not as big as you are probably of Anais. I think he can do so many things for the Aggies: wide receiver, run the ball, punt returns, kick returns, you name it. He does a little bit of everything. He bleeds maroon.
I'm pretty sure if you ask him to go out there and play special teams and cover a kick, he'll go do that too.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he would. I mean, yeah, he'd probably do anything you ask him to. Probably play center, guard, tackle, you name it. You put him in there. He'll try his best. That's what that's what you ask for.
Go play safety. He'll go run out there.
I'm sure you'd be willing to put him there too.
I would. I'd have
move everybody. Move them all around. Move everybody. Let's change them all up. But no, he's a great Aggie, man. I think the quarterback play this year will help him out immensely. he's still going to be the number one target, especially with Watermeyer gone. He'll get even more targets, I believe, because he's so quick. You can't. I don't even think he can double cover the guy. He's so quick. I mean, he's going to run inside, outside. I wish they went downfield a little bit more with him.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what his actual 40 speed is, but I don't think he's a Tyreek Hill speed, but he's quick and fast and almost that mold, the same size, 5'10". You know what I'm saying?
And he may be more quick than fast, but man, every time they throw it to him deep, he's wide open because he just turns a defensive back in around, has him doing circles. It's unbelievable. This kid's been playing since he was a freshman. I'm pretty sure he's played every game he's been on campus. He started a couple of games as a freshman at running back.
And that's saying something in Jimbo's. That's saying something in Jimbo's offense, even at running back. You know.
And then splitting time with some time at wide receiver as well. As as a sophomore, huge game against Bama. Huge game against Bama. I think something like 120 yards or so, 2 touchdowns. Actually, I think he's had 2 touchdowns against Bama as a sophomore and a junior, right? He was a big reason we won the game this past year. Just performs big on that big stage and makes big plays, man. More than that, you go watch him. He is the hardest working blocker on that team. He sits in there, and at wide receiver, some of those other guys may be, kind of dogging it, whatever, when it's a run. Not him. Not him, man. He's trying to get after it. Whenever they lined up, remember when they'd line up in the I with Spiller, a much bigger back, right? But they put Spiller back there. Let Anaya be the up back that's going to block because he was just a better blocker. He's a better blocker than Spiller.
He just gets in there. That's what you got to do when you block. You got to get in there, not be afraid. Go hit somebody. And that's what I'm saying. You can see him at center, guard, tackle. I'm not sure this year. It could be anywhere. But yeah.
I do. I will say this. If it's not because of the poor quarterback play and the offensive line play, right? But he probably has a pretty big year last year if Haynes King stays healthy compared to Calzada. He only ended up with 500 yards of change, but I think those numbers would be a lot. He'd have had his best year if Haynes King doesn't get hurt.
I don't know. That's all. I don't know. The offensive line, I think, was a big deal for Zach Calzada to be.
That's true.
He's quick getting rid of the ball because I saw Calzada in the spring game, and he had some accuracy in the spring game. He's throwing the ball where he needed to put it, and I don't know. Anyway, let's move on because Calzada's gone. Screw him. I'm glad he was here.
Back to Anais. Look, team captain, special teams contributor. He earned the Offensive Attitude Award and Offensive Skill Award. Special teams most impactful player this past year. Top condition athlete honor. I mean, these are all – I can't say enough about this kid. Not to mention, remember when NIL came out?
Yeah, what happened?
What'd he say? What'd he say when NIL came out?
I don't know what he said.
He said, I am sharing every penny I make in NIL with the rest of my team.
Bless his heart.
Bless his heart, man.
Yeah.
How about this? And this is going to be my last statement because otherwise, I may just talk about Anais the rest of the show.
I know.
I'd rather have him than Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk just signed one of the biggest wide receiver deals of all time. Probably the top receiver in the NFL according to that contract.
Correct. That guy.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
I'd rather Anais in the same system as Christian Kirk would have had 1,000-yard seasons every year, no doubt about it, man. I'd rather have him than Christian Kirk. And he's got
that was probably more coaching than anything back then. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm just making sure we're clear. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So player spotlight, Anaya Smith. All right. So look, as we talked about, as we started, teams with the opportunity to have the biggest turnarounds this year. And let's start inside of the SEC, and then we'll move out into the nation. But, it's hard to really I think it's hard to pinpoint teams in the SEC that have a chance for a huge turnaround because, teams that I'm very excited about that you would think, oh, that's a turnaround. Arkansas won 9 games last year, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
South Carolina, they won. What did South Carolina win? They ended up winning 7? So
yeah.
Are they going to, even if they're better, are they going to get that much better, right? I don't know. So what do you think? I'll let you go first. I think it's a tough call. Who's your team in the SEC that you would say, I think they're most well-positioned to have a big turnaround? And big turnaround might be 2 games, 3 games, whatever.
I don't know about turnaround. I'm not sure what their record ended up being last year was Tennessee. I liked
7-6.
Did. Yeah, out of 13 games, and I see them probably coming in second in the East behind Georgia. I'm not sure what their defense is going to be like, but I'm not really worried about their defense because their offense is going to score so many points that they're just going to outscore you. It's going to be like that Western Kentucky team last year where you score 50, we're going to score 60.
Yeah.
So, they're going to go up and down the field. It's going to be quick. You got the quarterback returning. They got players coming in. I like Tennessee a lot in the East and the West.
So let me comment on that one, right? So first, I love that pick. I
Right.
I really do. They do play Alabama. They do play Georgia. But outside of those 2 teams, they could win the rest of their game. You're talking about a game against Kentucky that should be a good competition. So that puts them in the 9 to 10 win area, man, and that's a big turnaround.
And that's what I was telling you before. If we went through each team, I'm not sure what all their records were last year. Who's going to be up and down? Like Kentucky, I told you. You said they won how many games last year?
Kentucky won 10 games last year.
I don't know if they can win 10 this year, but I think they're going to be a pretty decent squad in the East. I think they're going to be, the 3rd, 4th place maybe. They're going to be the top half in the East because I don't see Missouri. Yeah. I don't see Missouri, South Carolina, or who was the 3rd team? Florida. I think Florida's going to be down. I think Florida's going to be down this year, even though the coaching hire I like. I think they're going to be down.
So I think we agree on Tennessee and any other team. Any other team?
Mississippi State. I like them. I like his 3rd year. But the thing about him, no matter where he's gone, he's always lost to some team that he shouldn't have early in the season. Yeah. It's very frustrating. When he was at Washington State, he'd lose to a Division II school or something like that, and you'd be like, what just happened,
Look, Mississippi State went 7-6 last year, and they have a stretch this season with A&M, Arkansas, Kentucky, Alabama, and then Georgia.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
That's a really tough stretch. All I'm saying, and I like Mississippi State, and I agree with you. I think in the 3rd year, I think Rodgers, by the way, big season at quarterback in his 3rd year in the program and starting games.
If I were you, I'd go put some money on him for the Heisman.
Yeah.
It worked out pretty well for you last year.
I might. Yeah. I did not win the Heisman bet, but I did win the Super Bowl bet though. So I think that team is better. The question is, how do they go through a stretch like that? And once again, just like you said, do they lose a game that they shouldn't, man, right? Do they lose to, LSU, earlier in the season or something like that, right?
Right.
That's what scares me with them, but I do think that they're going to be better. Can they get to 9 wins?
Be tough.
That's a tough schedule to get to 9 wins.
I think they'll be 3rd in the West. That's my pick. I think it'll be Alabama, A&M, Mississippi State.
Alabama, Arkansas, Mississippi State?
I'm sorry. Arkansas is probably going to 3rd. Then Mississippi State. Sorry, 3rd or 4th, yeah. Arkansas will be pretty good.
Yeah. No,
I don't know. Arkansas, I just don't – I think the coach is good. I just don't get it. They lost their top wide receiver. I don't see their offensive line playing. I see them playing well again because they're offensive line coach. You know what I'm saying? The coach is a good offensive line coach, but at the same time,
they lost some guys to the transfer portal, but they got some guys in from the transfer portal.
That's what I'm saying. I just don't see I think they played above what they did last year. They caught. Teams like Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss. They caught A&M at the right time sometimes. I mean, there's
But
a
to
couple
that-
of breaks.
Look, they won 9 games last year. They had some good wins. But here's my thing. You say they played above sort of their level. Well, they did that 2 years ago too. That's the 2 years that coach has been there. So what that tells me is that guy's just a good coach, right? They're gonna play above their level, if you ask me. That's what they're gonna do going forward. To me, though, the problem is that this year might be a 10-win season. So is that much better?
Are you that high on that quarterback at Arkansas? I'm not that high on him.
The way they use him, I am. Because they're not afraid to use him as a guy that's going to carry the rock, right? Power, run game, and then let him throw the ball down the field. Not dink and dunk, blah, blah, blah. Down the field, go explosive, right? I like what they do. And I'll tell you, I'd be surprised if they're worse than they were this year, which is 9 wins, by the way.
It'll be worse.
All right, so
and they got blown out by Alabama, didn't they? Didn't they get blown out by Alabama last year?
I think that they did not get blown out by Alabama. I believe Alabama blew out Ole Miss. I think they played Alabama very tight, almost beat them.
Arkansas?
Yeah.
I checked the score up. I think it had to be like 20 points.
We'll look it up. We'll come back and reflect on that. So let's stick with the SEC. How about some teams in the SEC that might have a drop off this year? And this, just
two teams off the top, just off the tip of my tongue, just Florida and Ole Miss, right there.
Florida and Ole Miss. Well, I don't know that Florida's going to have that much of a drop off. They only won 6 games last year, whatever it was. I like the Ole Miss pick, though. I mean, they lose Matt Corral, who's one of the better quarterbacks in the country. They had a bunch of turnover. Hell, Lane Kiffin's own brother decided not to come and coach with him after he decided to coach with him. They've got a lot of stuff going on. They lost their offensive coordinator and some other pieces to that team. I agree with you. I think Ole Miss probably comes and has a drop off, maybe loses 5 games, 6. They could easily lose 6. Other than that, who else? I mean, it's hard to say anybody else is going to have a big drop off because the teams you think about, Vandy already sucked.
Missouri
already sucked.
Yeah, that's
right.
What I'm saying.
LSU already sucked. Florida already sucked.
LSU will probably be better than what they did last year.
Yeah. How about Georgia? How about Georgia, who loses everybody damn near off their NFL defense?
Right.
Still had Stetson Bennett as their quarterback, who, hey, played great last year, but let's not kid ourselves. He's not exactly Johnny Unitas or something like that, right? He's no Johnny Manziel.
Right.
So does Georgia, any chance Georgia falls off and maybe loses 3 games this year?
No. I don't see
no
that.
chance.
I mean, 3 games? I mean, are they playing Alabama this year? Is that on their schedule?
That is a no.
Who are they playing in the West?
Well, they play Oregon in the non-conference, right, in the first game of the season with their former defensive coordinator leading the charge at Oregon. How about that? That's pretty good. But then you've got Kentucky. You've got Tennessee. How about a surprise from South Carolina? I don't know.
No.
Anyway,
I don't see 3 losses. I could see one team like a Tennessee or something catching them.
How about if they lose 2 in the regular season? They lose 2 in the regular season, and then the SEC championship game. That's 3 losses.
That's true.
Anyway, I do think they take a step back. I don't know that they lose 3 games. I think that's that'd be a tough situation.
I don't think the East is strong enough yet. I don't think there's the number 2 team in the East is too far behind them. It's not like it used to be, where Florida used to be up there and they could beat each other up.
Unless, like I said, they lose to Oregon in the opener because they're just, they're replacing so much. Not that they don't have the talent that Oregon does. They do. They absolutely do, in spite of what they've lost. But if, just because of the fact that they're replacing so much in an opener and Oregon comes in and sort of surprises them, then they could get to 3 losses. Otherwise, I don't think there's a chance. Either way, I do think they're not anywhere near the team that they were last year. They're not as good, but they're still a 10-win team, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about Bama? Bama's got their quarterback back, but they lose a bunch of their playmakers. They lose some, components on the offensive line. They lose some guys on defense. How about Bama? Any chance that they have a fall off?
No. They're going to be good, strong. Their defense will probably be better than last year. There's question marks on the O-line and wide receivers, but at the same time, there's talent there. And like I told you before when we were talking, before we did this, Lane Kiffin taught Nick Saban how to do the offense. So, I mean, Nick learned a lot from Lane Kiffin.
I don't think Lane Kiffin taught Nick anything, but
taught him everything.
I agree with you. Bama's not going anywhere. Okay, so let's go to the big picture, the national picture a little bit. And let's turn it back to some teams that have an opportunity to have a big turnaround as sort of in the national picture. I think there's one team that's sort of on everybody's mind when this topic comes up, because I think everybody believes USC is going to take a jump, right? I mean, and they only won 4 games last year, so it's very possible, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think the Pac-12 is a very good football, basketball, whatever you want to call it, conference. I think West Coast, it's just not that good. That's just me. I mean, I'm still upset about the Aggies getting left out of the NCAA tournament because of this West Coast bias stuff. So, yeah, I mean, he made a good decision, Lincoln Riley, going to USC, because he can bring in talented players from Oklahoma over there, and they're probably going to dominate that conference here pretty soon.
Hey, look, I doubt it. I don't think Lincoln Riley is that good of a coach. He took over a Ferrari at Oklahoma and turned it into a Mercedes. So, but they were USC was 4-8 last year. I do think that at the very least, those guys, with the talent that he's brought in, his quarterback and his other guys and everything else, they're probably at least an 8-win team. So that's a 4-game turnaround, and definitely will do the trick on that, right? I still don't think they're that good, though. I still don't think they're that good next year. That's my opinion.
Are you saying 8-4 is not a good record?
I'm saying 8-4 is not a good record. Correct.
Okay. You win 2 out of 3 games, and you're not that good.
Not that good. Well, think about this. Half of those wins are against teams that barely play football, right?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, the Pac-12 sucks. I mean, Stanford.
I'm even talking about in the SEC, right? Because the SEC you usually have 3 games against nobodies and against one of the crappy SEC teams, like Vandy or Auburn.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about everybody in the country.
Oh, yeah.
No,
we only play – A&M only plays maybe – how many
8 wins for a big-time program is not a good year. 8 wins for a big-time program is not a good year.
How many cupcakes does A&M get? They get 2. They got. I mean, Miami.
At least 3.
Are you calling Miami Hurricanes a cupcake?
They play 4 non-conference games, and I bet you 3 of them are cupcakes. And Miami, by the way, first-year head coach. That means they fired the last one. They can't be that good.
Maybe.
But anyway, let's go back to. So I think USC is a clear candidate. I think everybody probably agrees with that, to have at least a somewhat of a turnaround.
Yeah.
Anybody else that
you're talking about
has a chance
for the positive to be good?
Yeah.
Man, we already talked about some of the guys. I guess ACC. I mean, I don't know what Miami's record was last year, but I think they'll be decent. I think they're playing us. I think they'll be all right. Clemson's gonna be pretty good. They lost, but they went 10-2
last year. But they could go undefeated.
Yeah, I mean, the ACC's not that strong. I think Notre Dame's going to take a dip because of losing Kelly. I think that's going to have some kind of effect on them.
How about Duke, who went 3-9 last year and gets Mike Elko into the program? I mean, I think that team all of a sudden has a chance to go at least make a bowl game.
Okay.
I like Texas Tech also. Let me throw that one at you. I like who they hired as their head coach, as their offensive coordinator, as their defensive coordinator, Tim DeRuyter. So, they've got some pieces there, and they were 7-6 last year. So it's tough to get much better than that, but they could be a 9-win team.
If they let that offensive coordinator do his thing like he did at Western Kentucky, that could be some fun offense. I'm talking the old school Red Raiders, where they're just slinging it all over the place.
Fun football for sure. So that's a pretty good one. Wisconsin, I think, had 9 wins last year.
Yeah.
But they play Ohio State this year, but they don't play Michigan. They've got an opportunity to go maybe 11-1. Is another one. How about teams with a big drop off nationally? You already named one, Notre Dame, right?
Yeah, I think they'll drop off a little bit. I don't know if Michigan can keep doing what they're doing, losing some of the guys they're losing. They're losing that defensive end, Hutchinson. I think it's a couple of defensive players. And, I don't think Harbaugh's a bad coach at all. I don't know if he's stockpiled the talent up like the Aggies have and what Ohio State has. Because Ohio State has a staying
somewhat
power.
favorable this year, though, right? They play. Obviously, they finish off with Ohio State, but I don't know that they've got. I mean, they played Penn State. How good do you think Penn State is? I'm not all that sold on those guys. Michigan State, whatever. But
What do you think Michigan
State's
going to stay?
They don't play Wisconsin on the other side of the bracket, huh?
You think Michigan State's going to stay where they did last year? Stay up there? Because the staying power is hard.
They ended up losing three games last year.
Right at the end, towards the end.
Yeah,
so, I can't remember.
I'd say I agree with the Notre Dame because look, I think they play Ohio State in the opener. That's probably they play Clemson later in the year. So I think those guys are going to take a little bit of a dip under the new coach and trying to get things going. Of course, he was there as the defense coordinator.
And what about Oklahoma? What about Oklahoma?
I like Oklahoma. Okay. I like Oklahoma, and I think the Big 12 is up for the taking, right? I mean, and obviously they're right in there. They've got just as much talent as anybody there, and I probably prefer the coach that they've got now over Lincoln Riley. So,
how would you like for A&M to be in the Big 12 right now? Would they just be dominating everything?
Conference championship right now.
Yeah, I mean, if they just give it to us, they'd be like, "Nah, we don't want to play the schedule this year. Let's just give it to you."
Here's another team, Cincy.
They're taking a big drop.
Yeah, I mean, they made it to the playoffs. Look, they lost a ton of talent to the NFL. All their best players are gone. They open up with Arkansas.
Yeah, be tough.
The rest of their schedule is not very tough, but
their conference is very tough.
Too much talent to lose, right? I mean, they're going to fall off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Pitt loses Pickett. Pitt loses Pickett. He was a big part of their success last year. So there's another one.
What about Baylor? They ended up doing pretty good last year. Do you think Baylor's going to be good this year?
Yeah. They lost some pieces and that they're going into the draft, but overall, I think they still get a lot of guys back. And Aranda's shown that he does a pretty good job of being pretty even keel and staying with it, right?
What about, one last one, the Longhorns. What are they going to do? Is this it for Sark? Is he fired after this year? Is this it? 2 and out?
They fire Sark
if they lose to Kansas again, I bet you he gets fired if they lose to Kansas.
If guaranteed he gets fired if they lose to Kansas, and they already have his successor in the house.
Who?
Because Gary Patterson is an assistant on that team right now.
Get out of here.
They hired him as an off-field coach. And
God, he should be the head coach.
And he's going to be their next head coach.
That guy's amazing. See, that's what I was trying to tell you before. Take a guy from a program like that, and he's going to do amazing things at Texas because he'll be able to recruit better over there.
I think there's no way they're as bad as they were last year. I still think they're not that good, but I'm probably talking, like a 7-win team this year.
What'd they win last year?
They didn't make a bowl game, did they? They were 5 wins.
God.
All right. So in all this conversation, where do you see the Aggies? Are they more likely to drop off? Mind you, 8-4 last year. More likely to drop off, or more likely to take a jump?
Honestly, I think they're going to be better this year. The more I think about it, I think our offense is going to be better, even without Spiller or Wademeyer. I think that our offensive line play will be better. I think our quarterback play will be better. I think we have skill position players that can do a good job. I think our defense is going to be better than what everybody's talking about. I mean, even with the losses, I think that there was a scout talking the other day. I can't remember where I read it or heard it, but they said that the Aggies have as much, if not more, pro potential in their whole team than any other college team just about right now. Just looking at their team, just looking like a pro-ready team. And I think that means a lot. I think these guys are going to get out there, and I just hope they don't buy into all this hype like what I'm saying right now and what you're saying and everybody else. I hope that they come out and fight like our Aggie basketball team does.
Well,
If they
let me
had
tell
that
you
kind of
about my
heart,
hype.
if they had that heart, that's what I'm saying. I think they're going to be, what were we, 8-4 last year?
8-4.
I think Alabama's going to be a tough one, but I think we're going to win those games like the Arkansas game, the Mississippi State game, the LSU game, the games that we lost last year that we should have been like, oh, man, we got this one. I think we're going to win those games. But there will be one game where we slip up. I'm not sure who it is. It might be South Carolina this year for some reason. I'm not sure.
South Carolina's going to be better. They're going to be a better improved team. I love the coach over there. That's great. That's great. That's a great call. Look, A&M wise, record wise, we won't be worse. We won't be worse than 8-4. So I don't think there's any chance we're on the drop-off side. I also don't know how many more games we win. But I think if I had to put my money on our record next year, I'd probably say from right now, without having seen the spring game, I'd probably say 9-3. 9-3, because I'll give it the Alabama thing, but man, I still believe that Jimbo's going to limit this offense, man. I still believe that he's not going to let it open up, go explosive, big play, and eventually the lack of experience on defense is going to hurt you and you're going to lose a couple extra games. So if I had to bet it, it's 9-3, but I think they have a chance to get 10-2, get to 10-2, and I guess that's a pretty good improvement, right?
Yeah, 10-2. I'll take that. Almost every year. Maybe more of this 12-0.
We won't complain. We won't complain about 10-2, and I think they have a chance.
Right. Yeah, we'll be fine.
All right. Questions from the tailgate, brought to you by Rawson Distributing, assisting Aggies with all their drilling needs. Aggie owned and operated. Gig 'em. All right, Corey. Bailey Zappi led the country in passing yards last season with more than 1,000 yards than anybody else in the country at like 5,800.
Who's that? The Western Kentucky quarterback?
Correct. Who's
Gotcha.
going to get drafted this year, by the way. And I would take him as a third rounder or something like that.
You think him that high?
I think so. The guy showed me some moxie, man.
All right, go ahead and listen.
Does anyone get close to those numbers in 22? Like 5,800 yards. Bryce Young had 4,872 last year with the receiving cores that he had. Will Rogers had 4,739. CJ Stroud 4,400. Anybody that you think gets anywhere near those numbers, 5,800.
The guy from Tennessee, I think Tennessee, what's it, Herndon? Is that his name?
And then Hooker.
Hooker. I think he's I think he could get close to that just because they do throw the ball downfield and they're an explosive team.
But he runs the ball some too, so I mean
he'll run the ball too.
Maybe combined yards. He might get their combined yards. How about that?
Yeah. I don't see what's his name from Mississippi State. I think he's gonna stay right around where he's at. I think that's pretty much what their offense is. It's
I'm going to go Will Rogers leads the nation in passing next year.
I mean, he's going to be up there, but I don't think he's going to be much better than what he was last year.
I think Bryce Young comes back to the pack a little bit, so instead of 4,800, he'll throw for 4,700.
Just because of what, receiving options?
Yeah. And I'm being facetious a little bit, but I do think he comes down 4,500, whatever. Still a good year. CJ Stroud at Ohio State might blow it up, right? Because he had a slow start to the year last year.
He blew it up at the end, though.
And then, I mean,
except for that Michigan game.
Strong.
Michigan game he got.
But two of his receivers are getting drafted in the first round this year. Of course, their leading receiver is back.
Oh yeah, I can't even say what's the guy's name. I can't even say his name.
Yeah,
I know. I just can't say it.
So there's some. How about a guy like Rattler at SC? He's not going to put up those kind of numbers, right? I mean,
that guy needs to get his confidence back. I don't know what happened to him at Oklahoma, but I was really high on him going into last year, and very disappointed.
Very agreed. Okay, so as a follow-up here to this question, how many yards do you expect the Aggie quarterback to have? Last year, Calzada threw for 2,185. What do you think? Whoever it is.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's going to be a lot of them. I think it's going to be playing too many daggum quarterbacks. I think Haynes will get hurt.
Combined?
3,700 yards.
Ooh.
Combined. 3,700 yards,
Ooh.
29, 30 touchdowns, and maybe 8 interceptions.
I'm not too far off. I'd say probably around 3,500 yards for Haynes King next year. That's what I'd say.
I don't know. See, he's only playing like 4 or 5 games, and Wegman's coming in. So I mean, combined, I don't know.
Yeah. So I'd say about 3,500. I like that number. We're not too far off. Jimbo won't open it up enough for them to get to those 4,700, 4,500 numbers, right?
Right.
All right. Question 2. Defense last year recorded 10 interceptions.
Right.
Leon had 2. Jalen had 2. Antonio 1. Damani 1. A couple of other guys 1. Over under for 2022 for 10 from 10.
You know, the only problem I see with us getting more is that we're probably going to play better quarterbacks this year because they're going to be more experienced. Because you think about Mississippi State has their guy coming back. Arkansas has their guy coming back. Alabama. I mean, I like our secondary. I like our defensive line. I'm going to say we're going to be probably 12.
By the way, Chappelle last year 9 pass breakups. So he didn't take it with him. But
What are you thinking?
He did have 9 pass. I'm going to go under. And the reason I'm going to go under is because I think while our secondary is better, I fully agree with you. I think that there's going to be less pressure up front. I still don't know who the guy that's going to be that big time force to get pressure off the edges for this defense. And eventually that's probably going to mean that they're going to bring more blitzes, right? And I don't know. And I still think I just think that means that we're not going to be able to convert on some of those opportunities as far as in the secondary. I'd say under, but probably not by much because I do think the secondary is better. I think our cornerbacks are going to be better, deeper. So maybe it gives us a chance to get to get to those numbers. In the system we were in last year, the safeties were a bigger part of some of those, opportunities, right? I'm hopeful that this year they just let those corners play.
Right.
Because I think that'll give us an opportunity to do more, right?
We'll find out a lot about that next week, in a week or two, huh?
We sure will. Corey, Gig 'em Aggies.
All right, buddy.
AP, Corey signing out from the tailgate.